Which candidate do you think wants to redistribute more wealth?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, it's such a loaded term that I think it's hard to answer that. I mean, I think they disagree on the right way to grow the economy, to get the economy out of its current struggle. I think Barack Obama believes that things like the economic stimulus plan were good policy. Mitt Romney clearly doesn't. But when you get into loaded terms like that, I tend to avoid them.
Why do you think it's a loaded term?
Because redistribute the wealth is a term that conservatives have used to describe what Obama would say is economic policy aimed at not redistributing the wealth in any real way, but rather trying to incentivize and keep everyone able to compete economically. Again, it's a difference of opinion between the two parties.
But is it a fact that the government taxes some people and forcefully takes their money through taxes in order to provide free goods and services for others? Is that a fact?
You're outside of my realm. I cover campaign politics.
You don't know if that's true? Whether policy? So you don't know if Obama is planning to redistribute more wealth than you said it was a. I'm interested. I'm interested in the.
I don't make judgments about the campaign.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a judgment. Let's take away the term redistribution of wealth because you objected to that.
I didn't object to it. I think it's a loaded term that liberals believe is a loaded term. I don't object to it. I offer no judgment on the term itself. I just think when you use it, it has been used as a pejorative in the past.
Is it a fact that the government takes taxes from some citizens in order to provide free goods and services for others?
You just asked me that again. I cover campaign politics, so we may have a little bit of misunderstanding in terms of what I do. I cover what the two campaigns say. I'm not delving deeply into economic policy. And again, I think the way the question is asked is a little bit loaded.
So you can't comment on economic policy?
I can, I think, but I can comment on in the context of the way in which the two parties have positioned themselves, with President Obama clearly believing that some government, Republicans would say too much government, but some government is necessary, and Republicans saying that smaller government and allowing the free market to work its will is the preferred method. But as in terms of a judgment that I would offer on which policy is superior, it's not what I'm in the business of doing.
What is the difference between Obama's strategy to increase prosperity and employment as compared to Romney's strategy?
I think President Obama would say that the best approach, and he said this, is that you have to make the middle class, you have to do everything that you can to make the middle class grow, to feel as though they have opportunity to do so. I think Mitt Romney would say, and that some levels of government involvement are important in that regard. I think Mitt Romney would say broadly, though I don't want to speak for him, but I think his policies would say it's more important to take off some of the role of government and let the free market work its will. It is two philosophies that are quite different, and a difference that is as old as roughly the two parties being in existence. That's why we have a two-party system in this country.
Is the difference that Obama thinks that increased government spending will increase prosperity and employment, and Romney disagrees?
I think that's overly simplistic. I think it's basically what what I think of it is what I just told you.
Okay. Do you think that the government should redistribute its citizens' wealth?
I'm a reporter. I don't think about what the government should or shouldn't do. I cover what the government does and doesn't do.
You don't have an opinion on that question? Okay. Can you give us any principles that you think we could use when analyzing politics that would be useful to our viewers?
I don't understand what you mean by principles. Analyzing politics.
Well, a principle that you use to evaluate candidates and make determinations as to which candidate is better or not, or why?
I don't. I think, are they able to connect with people? Do people respond to the message that they have? Again, that's not a judgment I put on them. It's a judgment that people put on them. That's why democracy is great.
Do you have an opinion as to whether we should have gone to war with Iraq?
I do not. I'm a reporter. I'm on a relatively short time frame, so I don't want to continue to go down this road. I, as a reporter, cover the political debate around issues and people. I don't wade into that debate.
So you don't think that the war in Iraq or foreign policy and when to intervene militarily is an issue?
Well, of course it's an issue. It's an issue for politicians to talk about and for me to cover. But it's not an issue for me to offer my personal opinion on. It's not what I do.
Okay, so you don't have an opinion on that question?
No, I cover the politicians and their views on issues.
Have you ever offered any opinions about whether Bush's policy was right or wrong, or?
No, because I wouldn't offer any. I don't offer judgment on what politicians' policies are correct or incorrect. I cover how their policies are received by the public. I probably have time for one more question.
Can we ask you about your views on justice?
Kind of a broad subject.
I'm trying to get to some subject which is not off limits that we can talk about.
Subject that's off limits. I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding of the way in which I do my job, which is to do everything that I can to bring the views that politicians are trying to have heard to the American public, and then cover what the American public says about those issues, how they react to those issues. I'm not a player in that process.
Did you ever ask any of the politicians about whether they were in favor of redistribution of wealth?
We've covered this ground. I think we'll probably be done here. But
I'm asking you if you asked them questions. I'm not asking you.
I talk to many politicians about their economic policies, Democrats and Republicans, and will continue to do so because the economy is obviously a very pertinent issue to most people in the country. So thank you so much.
Can we talk about the justice? Anything about justice? Or ethics? Any subject that we can discuss your views?
Honestly, we've spent about 10 minutes talking, and I've a somewhat busy schedule. But, again, I would say broadly, I think it's about covering how politicians talk about the economy, how politicians talk about justice, how politicians talk about ethics, how they manage within the ethics rules that have been set up, not how I feel personally about those issues.
Well, Chris, you do have an opinion about the term redistribution of wealth. You think it's loaded, so that's an opinion. At least you have that opinion.
I don't think it's loaded. I think it is something that has become a political football. And so I think you have to be careful in those situations not to allow it to be so, that you have to say, okay, what are we talking about? Let's define the terms of the debate and go from there.
Well, when I interviewed Gingrich, he said that redistribution of wealth was stealing. What do you think?
We're back to square one here, and there's only so much we can do. So thank you so much.
Thank you anyway. The bottom line. The bottom line.
The bottom line. And what is that?
We do public policy interviews. Did you get that?